Okay. Tav Pei Aleph. Okay, Tav Pei Aleph Shelo Lishtot Achar Arba Kosas. Not to drink after the fourth cup of wine. So Aleph. Achar Arba Kosas, once you finish drinking the fourth cup of wine, Eino Rashai Lishtot Yain Alamayim. You're not allowed to drink wine anymore that night. The only thing you're allowed to have is water. So just a quick point out, the Tur wonders where this Isser comes from. It's not in our Shas, and apparently it comes from the Gaonim. Exactly how or when and why is not 100% clear, except there is reasons for it. Just the nature of the Takana, the Tur is wondering. Haga, V'chol HaMashkin Dinan Keyayin. And all liquids for this halacha have the same din as yain. We don't drink anything except for water. And again, most obviously permit coffee and tea. Alright, we'll leave out the question mark of sugar and milk. Anyways, milk is fleshik already. Anyways, so what's wrong with, so the two main reasons that are given, and it seems to be the Shulchan Aruch is paskening the Chumrah for both. The two problems is we don't want it to be mosif. Right? It could look like you're adding on to the cups. Right? The kana is to have 4, not 5, 6, or 7 necessarily, although we'll talk about 5 in a moment. And we don't want you drinking more wine is the ikar problem, but both are an issue because we don't want you to get too sleepy. We want you to stay up for the Seder and perhaps much past. Okay. So those are the two main reasons given. Okay, so let's keep reading. Umi shehu istinis, so the Ramah mentions what happens if a person is somewhat of an istinis, he needs to drink wine for himself, whatever the reason is, o ta'ev harbe lishtot, or he just really, really wants another drink of wine. Yachol lishtot kos chamishi, you are allowed to drink a 5th cup. V'yomar alav halel hagadol. So there's one exception, right? There's a necessity to drink wine and pretty much all drinks. Certainly Chamar Medina, but generally we assume everything except for water. So the one exception is if you want to have another cup of wine, what do? You say Halal Hagadol. Okay, so what does that mean exactly? That means after you finish Halal and everything, before, after, Nirtza, whatever, you take another 5th cup, and it depends if you had a mind to keep drinking or not, but okay, let's say you probably would say Berei Pri Hagefen, but before you drink from it, you hold up the cup and you hold it and you say Halal Hagadol. That's that long 26 pasuk Tehillim of Kilu Lam Chazdo. Okay. Interesting, the Shulchan Aruch does not discuss Kos Chamishi at all. Happens to be one of the longest tours, especially for not being in the Shulchan Aruch. And it could be just because it's optional, and there's a question, is it better to say it, not better to say it among the Rishonim, and and then what do you do about the bracha? Where do you say it? Do you say a bracha before, after? Or which bracha afterwards? It's a little bit of a question, right? Melech molal b'tish bachot and etc. So it becomes a little bit of an issue. All right. It does seem, now I'll just point out the Mishnah Brura. First he writes in the Mishnah Brura that when you're going to do this Kos Chamishi and say Halal Hagadol, the only time you can do this is if you didn't say Melech molal b'tish bachot. You have to be saying this on the 5th cup on the Halal Hagadol before you say Melech molal b'tish bachot. But then in the Bir Halacha, he basically points out that according to Rov Rishonim, what he just wrote is not correct. It seems clear from the Ramah, the Rif, the Rambam, and the Maharal that you could say it even after Melech molal b'tish bachot. So I'm not exactly sure why he wrote the Mishnah Berurah the way he did, but perhaps just because it's so optional, just to be strict.
But you don't make another.
100%. So, everybody says you only say Melech molal b'tish bachot once. Whether No, the Maharal points out what's the correct way to do it. Pretty simple, he says. You say the entire regular Hallel. You say Nishmat, Yalucha, Melech Malal B'Tishbachot, but you don't say Hallel Gadol. You pull that one Mizmor out, and you save it for after the fourth cup, and then on that one, just on that Kilam Chazda, that 26 Tehillim, that's called Hallel Gadol, then you say it, you save it, you say that last, after Melech Malal B'Tishbachot, after you drink the fourth cup, and then you can drink a fifth cup later on that night. Okay. No, just to point out, the Maharal points out, according to most Rishonim, and including the Rambam, if you actually look at it inside, you do see that it is preferable, it is better to say, to have a kos chamishi on Hallel Hagadol. It's lechatchila, but yes, you do it after Melech Malal B'Tishbachot, as we just explained. Okay. If you say the bracha B'Priyah Gefen, again, it depends if you had it in mind or not. If you had it in mind when you said the third or fourth bracha, then you would not say B'Priyah Gefen on this one. There's not a special takana of Chazal to say B'Priyah Gefen, just like there is for Ashkenazim for the first, right? And according to the Rambam, for all four cups, you say your own Berei Pri Gefen. There is no Berei Pri Gefen for Kos Chamishi unless you changed your mind and you thought you were finished drinking. Now, what is so important about this Kos Chamishi? What's the whole inyan about it? Because you do see from, perhaps from the Gemara, certainly from the Rishonim, that it is preferable, according to most. So, the Mahalach of the Ramah is, and perhaps the Shulchan Aruch or whatever, it seems to be, it's basically an excuse if you want to have another fifth cup of wine. So we let you. But many point out that actually no, it's lechatchila, you want to have this fifth cup. I'll just say it real bekitzer, the concept behind it. The Maharal points out it's a great shevach, this Hallel Gadol, and it's even greater than the Dalet Kosos. Dalet Kosos is for Geula. And an even greater level is Parnasa. That's even more difficult to constantly sustain. And that's why there's no bracha, there's no reshus, because it's a higher level. And on things that are higher level, they're more spiritual and less physical, and it doesn't even get its own bracha. It's to bring us to Eretz Yisrael, and then to be mefarnes otanu sham. And that's why at the very end of Hallel Gadol, it starts out with Geula, but at the end, the climax, it goes to Noten L'chol Basar, because that's the greatest level, and that's why it's only the Baal HaBayit, he says, should really be drinking from it, because he's the one who's mefarnes the whole bayit. Maybe in some of our homes, if it's the woman, maybe she should be the one who drinks it, but okay. Now, heard from Rabbi Weiner, another pshat, another famous pshat is the Kos Chamishi is symbolic of La'asid Lavo. That's also V'Havyenu with the Geula Shlema. And that's why there's 5 cups. Because Kos is Gematria 86. And there are 86 years of Avodas Parach. 5 times 86 is 430. And 430 is the years that we're supposed to be, we're in Mitzrayim. That's what it says in Parshas Bo. And since either it didn't happen yet, or because we already drank, perhaps al pidrash, the 5th cup through our suffering and poison, therefore there's no bracha on it. Okay, let's get back to the halacha. We are in Beis. Halacha Seif Beis. Chayav adam la'asak b'ilchos Pesach b'tzilas Mitzrayim. One should eat one after the Haggadah, right? People should learn about Pesach and Yetziat Mitzrayim. Ulesaper banisim uvaniflaot she'asa HaKadosh Baruch Hu l'avotenu, and to speak about all the wonderful nisim that Hashem did for us, in particular Mitzrayim, but now as well. Whatever nisim we experience, but okay. Right, Mitzrayim is the source for all future Galios and eventually Geula. Ad shetechatzfenu sheina, until a person falls asleep. Okay, so there's halacha and midrashim that could be said all night.
What
Haga.
does that mean, Shana? Means that he falls asleep like sitting in his chair learning?
Yeah.
Why does the Ramah then
Or lavdavka, but yeah.
Right afterwards.
It's an expression. It could be either one. It's not, you're not mechuyev to fall asleep at the table. Haga, you're allowed to. Or it means, the sleep is, you find yourself falling asleep, so you catch yourself up, and go to bed. Haga. Okay. V'chol din leil rishon, yesh gam kein v'leil sheni. Whatever applies to the first night, applies to the second night if you're in chutz la'aretz. V'noagim shel yikrot al mito rak parshat shema, v'lo shar dvarim shekorim b'shar leilot, kedei lahagim, ki leil shemurim hu min hazikin. So the Ramah writes that the minhag is to say kriyat shema al mita. Shmura points out with birkas hamapil. So again, for the Svardim, Chazon Ovadia Yosef says you also say Birkas Hamapil even if it's after Chatzos, but many follow the Ben Ish Chai who do not say the Bracha of Hamapil after Chatzos ever. I'm talking about Shem V'Malchus. Right. Right. So without Shem V'Malchus, then everyone says to say. Very good. Okay. Right, so the minhag by Ashkenaz we see over here from the Ramah is not to say the extra psukim. The minhag by Sfardim is to say. Again, it's not ma'akev anything either way. Anyways, what's special? Because tonight is Lil Shimurim, so we need less special Shemira. Okay, Tav Pei Beis. Din, min she'ein lo mata shmura. What happens if a person doesn't, okay, let's read Aleph. If a person lacks enough mata shmura. So Aleph. A person only has one kazayis for himself or for each person, one kazayis of matzah shmura. When do you eat it? So he says like this, Mevarech, so we're assuming you have matzah shmura, and then you have a lot of regular matzah that's not shmura. So, Mevarech al achilas marar ve'ochel, okay, shagomer, sudato mi matzah she'enu meshumeret, Mevarech al achilas matzah, ve'ochel oto kazayit. So what do? In the beginning of the meal, when you say hamotzi lachamina aretz, you're going to say it on matzah. That's not matzah shmura, but you're not going to say the bracha of al achilas matzah. So you're just going to eat one kazayis right now for the Mishnah but you're going to wait for your kazayis of matzah shmura for at the very end for the afikomen, and that's when you're going to say al achilas matzah. And we don't worry about korech, because once you lose your matzah shmura, we just say, okay, never mind. Korech is really just a zecher anyway, and you need matzah shmura for korech with the marar. Okay, so then you save it for afikomen, and when you eat the afikomen, you say al achilas matzah, because you want to say al achilas matzah on matzah shmura. Ve'eino to'em acharav klum, and then you don't eat anymore because you don't eat anything after the afikomen.
So it cancels both the matzah and the afikomen.
Exactly. That one kazait at the end counts for your mitzvah of both, of eating matzah and the afikomen. Now what happens if a person is sick? Interesting, the Mishnah Berurah points out, if a person is sick, what should you do? And a person is sick in the sense that he's not able to eat more than a kazait of bread the whole night. Any kind of bread. Any kind of matzah. So what do? You're going to start off eating the meal without bread. You're going to at the beginning you're going to say kiddush on wine, and then when you get to hamotzi, you're not going to say hamotzi. You're going to save the one hamotzi of matzah shmura, because you could only eat one kazayit of matzah, period, of any kind of matzah, this person, and you're going to eat it all for the afikomen. So when you get to the afikomen, you're going to say hamotzi and achilas matzah. But what happens if a person can't have any matzah and can't drink wine? He can't tolerate wine. So what does he do? He can't do the daled kosos. And for kiddush, then you're going to say you have to say hamotzi. You have to say kiddush. So you have to use say hamotzi at the for kiddush. So when you say kiddush, you're going to end up saying hamotzi and achilas matzah and everything all then. Okay. Let's read the Haggah. Umi she'ema shnei haleilos rak shalosh matzos. Now let's say you're in chutz la'aretz and you have 2 nights, and you only have 3 full matzos. What do? So So Yavarach Lel Rishon Hamotzi V'al Achilas Matza V'chein Akricha Hakol Min Prusa. So you're going to end up doing Yachatz early on, like you normally do. And then when you get to Hamotzi and Al Achilas Matza, you only have 2.5 matzahs. But you want to, so you're going to say Hamotzi while holding 2.5 matzahs. So you have Lechem Mishnah and 2 whole ones. But you're only going to be eating from the piece, the middle matzah from Yachatz left over, and you're going to save those 2 whole matzahs for the next night. Same thing could theoretically apply if, in Eretz Yisrael, if your neighbor doesn't have whole matzahs. So you can have him do it first, or you do it first, and one of you eats from the prusa and not from the whole matzah.
The Seder of the second night is more important than the Suda of the day, of the first day.
Good question. We don't talk about, he doesn't mention what to do for lunchtime, I don't know.
No, that doesn't need to be on Matza Shmura. Maybe you can get
So maybe it's talking about you only have 3 whole Matza Shmura. Very good. But probably I would, use it up for the lunchtime if that's all you have, probably. Okay. Ushtei Shlemos, these 2 whole Matza Shmuras that you pointed out, we'll save it Leil Sheni or for your friend. Okay. Some point out that maybe in this case it's better not to do Yachatz. Before Hamotzi, do Yachatz after Hamotzi, so that you could eat from Mashalim, but whatever. And someone points out for the second night, that's from the Magen Avram, you should take a little crumb or a little piece left over from your Yachatz and save it for the second night. So you can have Yachatz at the beginning of the second Seder, and still have 2 whole ones left over for when you get to, Hamotzi then. Fine. Tav Pei Gimel. Din mi she'ein lo yain. What happens if a person doesn't have wine? Okay, you can't tolerate it, doesn't have it in the house, nobody can have wine, what do you do? Aleph. Mi she'ein lo yain v'lo Pesach. He doesn't have any wine the night of Pesach. So what do? Mekadesh al hapat. You say Kiddush on the matzah. So at the very beginning, you're holding the matzah instead of wine. And then you Shemavarech HaMotzi. You say the bracha of HaMotzi, right, on all of them. Then Ubotzeya. Then that's when you perhaps do Yachatz. It's a whole question. The word Botzeya over here is, perhaps it's done now. It could be, the Mishnah Berurah says, for our times, for us, we always have 3 whole matzahs, and so you should just do B'tzeya after Achilas Matzah. Okay, whatever. Umaniach yadav alav ad shegomer kiddush. So basically, you're holding the matzahs until you finish Kiddush. Okay, and again, you could be, at this point, you could be holding 2.5 matzahs, 3 matzahs, 1.5 matzahs. It's not really ma'akev. They all work. Umevarich ala chilas matzah v'ochel. And then, at the end of Kiddush, you finish Kiddush. Before you eat, you say ala chilas matzah. This is where you put it in. V'achar kach ochel. And whatever. So then you're going to eat v'ochel. Then you eat the matzah. Okay, fine.
So the Makadesh needs to eat.
The Makadesh and everybody needs to eat. Well, unless you, okay, it depends. Not everybody needs to eat. As long as everybody has their own lechem mishnah for later on, if everybody has their own 3 matzahs, I don't think people usually do that, so then yes, or every individual little family, if they have, any family that has their own matzahs, depends how you conduct your Seder in your house. You need to make sure that when you say hamotzi, it's on lechem mishnah. So, you could be yotzi through the Baal Habayit, and everyone else has another 3 matzahs for later. Or, he's doing he's a Baal Habayit, and he's doing hamotzi for everybody, which I think most people do, but, so then everybody will be eating right now. Okay? But either way. V'achar kach, so now you basically finished Kiddush, hamotzi, and al achilas matzah. Right? Or what we call motzi matzah, whatever. Achar kach ochel sha'ar yirakos. Now you're going to do karpas. and without netilas yadayim, because you're doing it right away, right after you already washed your hands for the bread. Umasalek hashulchan, you move away the tables, everyone asks questions, what's going on over here? Ve'omer, nishma nishtana, and they ask ma nishtana, then the whole Haggadah, you say the whole Haggadah ad Gaal Yisrael, and then you say then you get to Gaal Yisrael. Machloket achronim, if you say the bracha, Gaal Yisrael. Some say you could only say the bracha of Gaal Yisrael, the bracha was nitkan only on a second cup of wine, and you don't have a second cup of wine. So that's a machlokas. Probably I would say safek brachos lahakal, but anyways, it's a machlokas, okay? Umevarech al hamaror ve'ochel. And then you say the bracha of hamaror, for asher kishen al achilas maror, and you eat the maror then. V'acharkach korech matzah, and then you do korech. Umaror together ve'ochel. Hagah, below bracha. And you're not saying another bracha now, because you already said all the brachas, except for maror I mentioned, just right now. But when it comes to the matzah brachos, we did them at Kiddush already. Uvim kamot shenoagim lishtot mashke, hanasa midvash, shekorin med, yachol likach oto mashke la'arba kosos im ein lo yain. Now, in the places where there was a custom, particularly on Pesach, to drink this honey drink, and it became like Chamar Medina for that place, so then, if you have no wine or grape juice, you can use this. That's right. Most poskim point out, even though it's only considered normally Chamar Medina has to be something that everybody drinks all year long. And but this case of med, it could be that it's only drunk. It could be something that's Chamar Medina. It could be only if it's only Chamar Medina for Pesach. Like once you enter the 8 days of Pesach, like your concept of changes a little. Your frame of reference changes a little bit. All right, that's a question, but that is what most poskim say. V'yesh omrim she'ein osin kiddush al sha'ar mashkin, and then you can't say kiddush on anything else unless v'linira delin arba kosos. But for arba kosos, yesh lismach amand amar de mekachin al sha'ar mashkin hu chamar medina. So it's a machlokas if you can use chamar medina for dalil kosos, and he says if it's chamar medina and you have no choice, that's what we can use. Taf bei dalil. What if you want to do the Seder in many houses? In other words, you want to do your own Seder in your house, but you have a bunch of neighbors who don't know how to say the brachos. Right? They need help. So what do? Aleph. Yeah, you could either do your own Seder first and then go to them, or you can go to them and then do it yourself. I'm just in a nutshell. It just basically says, it's all in Aramaic, basically it just says you can do it. You can say brachos for them, even though it's brachos in nehinim, for eating foods, you can say it for them and not eat anything. And it could be yours first or theirs first, it makes no difference. In your house you're going to eat, in their house you're not to. Because we're all revim zelazeh, and even though it's a bracha of nehinim, whether we're talking about all of everything, we're talking about karpas, maror, matzah, and yain. You can say all these brachos for them, even though you yourself are not going to taste any of it. Because for tonight, they're all considered a mitzvah. And for a mitzvah, arevim zelazeh, you can say it for other people, just like you could do for Kiddush, we know. But Birkat HaMazon, you're going to see you can't do. You can't say that for them. Man dabayla roche bitrei, o bitlat bata, you want to go to 2 or 3 houses, so mavarach v'reishu b'veite. So make your own brachos in your own house first, v'achil, eat, kol mai tzrich, as much as you want, uverach birkat hamazon. Finish your own Haggadah, your own Seder first. And make all your own brachos. V'hadar, and afterwards, it's a little bit late, but mevarech l'kol chad v'chad b'veite. You can go to each and every, as many houses as you want, go into someone else's house, say all the brachos for them that they need as the Seder progresses, for each item itself, right? There's the different things. V'shatu inu kasa de kedusha de udegarata v'achli yarke umatza. And these people are going to say amen, they're going to listen, and they eat everything as the night progresses. It starts off with kiddush, right? The grape juice, the matzah, the karpas, the chulei. The ihu, and this guy who's saying all the brachos, who already made his own Haggadah, his own Seder. Lo achil v'shaltei b'hadayu. And he doesn't eat or drink in their houses. He's just saying the bracha for them.
Why is this in Aramaic?
Yeah.
I don't know. He just copies it. I think from the Rif, wherever the Lashon comes from. I don't know. I don't know why. Sorry, it's a little more difficult for us. V'shavik lula migmar sidutayu, and you let them finish eating their meal. Umevarchi inhu birkas hamazon. But they have to make their own birkas hamazon, because that you can only say if you ate yourself. V'ilo yade yikra mila b'mila. And if they don't know how to say birkas hamazon, then say each word for them, and they repeat each word. Because you can't say it for them, because you didn't eat. But you can read it out loud, word for word, and they'll just keep repeating after you. And you can do this in another house again.
How is he making birkas hamazon? Or there's his machlokes as to whether he can make a birkas hamazon?
He cannot make his own birkas. The guy who's going there to someone else's house, so the ones who ate could say birkat hamazon. But if they don't know how to read or don't have a bencher to say birkat hamazon, you can say it for them, but they have to repeat it word for word, because they can't just answer amen, because it's not a birkat mitzvah. Only for birkat mitzvah, you can just say it and they'll answer amen. This is a bracha achrona for nehenin, and so that they have to say it themselves verbally. Or listen from someone else who's chayav in it. V'hadar azil leveti v'gamra halela v'shati kasad v'halela. And then he goes back home, this guy, this mitzvah boy, he can go back home now and finish his own Seder of Halal. And if he wants to go to their house first, but that's also fine. Either order, Baruch Lahu v'lo achiyah v'lo ta'im. So he says the bracha for them, and he doesn't taste it. He doesn't taste the wine, he doesn't taste anything. He's just saying all the brachas for them. And then when they finish, their hamotzi, their maror, hada azil leveti umakadesh. Then he goes to his house and has his own seder and says all of his own brachos and eats there. V'mirtze yigmar kol beveito, and he can finish halal in his house. V'yachar kach yelech l'kadesh abatim acherim v'lo yochal v'yishta imayim. And he can finish everything in his house and then go to them, or he can go to them in the middle before halal. It doesn't really matter. And if you're going to finish halal, and you can finish halal in their house and say the kos revi'i in their house, you can say a kos revi'i in your house. It doesn't really matter. But if you finish, wherever you finish kos revi'i, if you keep going from house to house after kos revi'i, you can't keep on drinking. Because that's it. Alright.